what you have to say is unique and is valuable. And that's what you should be chasing, the things that scare you the most. And Wicked scared the hell out of me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Coley. Welcome to this special episode of Seen on the Screen, brought to you by Make It Universal and Rotten Tomatoes, where we talk movies with some of the people behind the scenes at NBC Universal and Universal Pictures. Today, I'm sitting down with director Jon M, whose newest project is the feature film adaptation of the award-winning musical Wicked. So tell folks what you do and how you work with NBC.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here, even just on the Universal lot.
Yeah.
I was just watching a video. I've been like digitizing these old VHS tapes, and I was here in 1986 at the Universal Studios, and they had this like screen test experience.
Really?
And they grab people from the audience and they put you up. So I'm like 8 years old, and there's a close up of me. I'm playing like the sleeping policeman in it, and so to be back here filming here is pretty amazing. But yeah, I mean, it's a dream. This is Universal. That logo means so much. The brand means so much. As a storyteller growing up watching movies on the big screen, so to actually be able to tell a big spectacle movie with music and huge sets that I've never seen sets this big before. To tell
the set we have here, it's incredible.
It's amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
That thing actually works. Like when you talk, it moves. We had this incredible team that built it, and then it was so incredible. They shipped it back to LA. Every chord on there is a different color, and there's a specific pattern that it has to go to. So whoever set up this set is amazing.
Absolutely.
Because they had to put it in that order. So kudos to them.
Thank you for transporting us to Oz, because I really do feel like I'm here, like down to the floor, to the ceiling, like we are in the middle of it. But talk about your journey to helm this film adaptation, because Wicked is a cultural phenomenon, a global sensation. And so you're not the first time somebody thought, when are we going to make this into a film? But I know it was really sort of your attachment to the subject material that really sort of made you the perfect choice to shepherd this project.
Well, I saw it in San Francisco before it was even on Broadway.
Wow.
They were workshopping it. It was like, hey, Stephen Schwartz, the writer of Pippin, and it's like he's doing his new musical. So I went with my mom, because every weekend we'd go to the shows. This is growing up in the Bay Area, and I remember seeing it and thinking, this is the most cinematic show I've ever seen on stage. Like. Wow. Because I'm a movie maker, at that point I wasn't quite yet, but I aspired to be that. I dreamed of like, what would this would look amazing in a movie, and I had never thought that I would be the one that would get to do it. I don't know, 20 years later, which is kind of it feels like destiny at a certain point. I had to do many movies in between, movies with dance, movies with music, until it happened. It was I was a huge fan of Wicked, so all those years. So, and I also was one of those people who were like, when are they going to make that movie? They need to make this movie. And I would call over here every so often, every year or so, and they never take the phone call. And then one day I got the phone call.
Really?
It was during the lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, we were all feeling different at that moment. The lyrics that really compelled me that this movie needed to be made now and urgently was in Defying Gravity, when Elphaba says, something has changed within me, something is not the same.
Yeah.
That sentiment alone, you could feel it. I still feel it. I think everyone's going through it. And what does change feel like?
Yeah.
And is change bad because we resist change all the time? Or is it necessary to get to the next level, to be, to surrender to the next place that we all need to get to? And so I thought this even though it was written 20 years ago, there was a prophetic nature to the lyrics and to the story, and to put that on the big screen, I felt very compelled after having done Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights that this would be the next chapter of what we needed to, the message that we wanted to get out there.
I mean, we know that you have the global award-winning talents of Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo playing this sort of two-handed stars in this story that everyone has been obsessed with since they first saw it on Broadway. Yeah. But for you, I know it's about those little moments as a director. Yes, this is such a grand spectacle, and I know the audience is always at your heart when you're thinking about making these films. What are those little moments that you hope the audience is paying attention to in this adaptation that you put in there for them, whether they are familiar with Wicked, the musical, or maybe the books, or they're just coming to this brand new?
Everything was about finding these girls,
Yeah.
these two, Elphaba and Galinda. The whole story, as much as the spectacle and the big dance numbers and the world that we're building, those are extraordinary. But if you don't have these two women who understand the nuance of these characters, of what Elphaba feels like as someone who's different, someone who's green, what does that feel like when people judge you just for being green, and someone who lives in a bubble and who has the privilege of a bubble, and what does it take? What kind of courage, dare I say, does it take to pop the bubble and be uncomfortable by your own being to actually confront the things? So they understood that intrinsically. And by the way, we did not offer this we didn't offer this role. Everyone had to audition, and everyone in town wanted these roles. And so when they came to it, it wasn't just about, of course, their singing ability is amazing, their acting ability is amazing. I think to see Cynthia play this role, people will be astounded. If you haven't seen her before, you will fall in love with her. And for Ari, if you do know her, I think you will discover a whole new side to her. So bringing them together, it's all about those little moments. They became these two friends. They're so different from each other, two very different methods of acting, of life, really. And yet they connect on this and complement each other. I think you're going to feel that in this movie. And the movie is also about leaving the ones you love at a certain point. So there's heartbreaking moments in that. But they have the ability, because it's so easy for them to sing at such an extraordinary and emote so well through song, that their twists and turns of when they come in a song, out of a song, that the song never feels separate from the character, that it feels only an extra form of expression for that character. Those are the moments I think the audience may not expect fully, but a movie has the ability to be that close and that intimate.
Oh, I love that. So you guys were off in London filming this, and now you come back, and from the minute we were about to get the trailer at the Super Bowl to you just came off, I think, a flight from Paris where you all were there, and we had the colors, the pink and the green, and this incredible moment for the entire, I think, NBC Universal ecosystem, including Universal Pictures. The largest stage right now is the Olympics, and there's been so many other ones that you guys have brought this film to. What is that like for you when you're bringing this film out and you've done all this hard work to know you're going to get the literal red carpet that being a part of this ecosystem provides you?
I mean, it is extraordinary. It's amazing to see. And it didn't just start now. It started when we first were developing this movie, to understand that a studio is behind a vision for a film, that we're willing to build the sets, to plant the 9 million tulips, to get these kind of actors. They laid it out really early that they believed in this story, that it could reach so many people. So then to have our launch be at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And get all the random phone calls from my high school and grade school friends who I haven't talked to in years, and to get that kind of fervor was really amazing. And then, of course, our whole cast, not just Cynthia and Ari, but Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, Marissa Bodie playing Nessa. We have Ethan Slater. We have Bowen Yang, Jonathan Bailey. I mean, the list goes on, and all of them together represent so many different walks of life, ages, shapes, sizes. And I think that's part of the spirit of Oz and part of the spirit of Universal. Yeah. And so when those two come together at some place like the Olympics, it just feels right. Our messaging matches the defying gravity of Simone Biles. Wow. That Elphaba's journey of being free, of trying to prove herself to anyone, matches up with so many of the gymnasts there. Yeah. And so to then match those two together. I mean, that I don't know any other company who can do that. And of course, the girls are wearing the green and the pink, and so it all really matches well. The team is very good here. I'm not gonna lie.
When you have good partners, it makes it a great journey.
Yes.
Now we're going to take a little bit of a detour. Thank you so much for telling us all about Wicked. I can't wait for folks to get a chance to see it. All right, so we're going to dive into one of our trivias, and this one's going to be based off of quotes. Is he a pig? He sure eats like one.
Is this E.T.?
Yes, this is E.T. Tell us about our relationship with E.T., because I know that it was one that touched you to then hopefully want to become a filmmaker.
Yeah, E.T. was something that I watched, probably my first movie in a movie theater. Wow. And I'm the youngest of 5 kids, so all my brothers and sisters were there. We had the Reese's Pieces, all the things. And to watch that That was cinema, especially at the end when the spaceship is leaving and E.T. says to Elliot, I'll be right here. And his finger is glowing and the John Williams score is going. I mean, it blows you away. I don't think there was air blowing. I don't think there was 40X at that time, but you could feel that spaceship go. And it took its time to let that happen. And just showing my kids again recently, they were captivated. I mean, my kids are young, 6, 5.
Wow.
So to watch them watch a movie all the way and just be fascinated and that's like magic. For sure.
Have they gotten to see any of the Oz? Have you taken the kids onto the set and because that has got to be like,
oh yeah.
Oh, tell me what that was like really quick. Because that feels like exactly what a kid would think of.
Yes.
If they were trying to think of a magical land to go to. And so then to walk into that, it's got to be surreal.
Yeah. Well, one of the best things of making a movie with kids. I mean, I just started having kids, even though I have 4 now. I don't know how that happened. But one of the best parts was including them in this. So we moved to London together. And before I went out there, I was showing them, okay, I'm doing this thing called Wicked. Here are the songs. And here are some auditions for actors who are coming. And so, my kids didn't know who Ariana Grande was. But when they watch it, like, oh, wait, she's really good. And then you hear her on the radio and they're like, oh, she sings too? Other songs? I'm like, yeah. And then to see the designs and to see the costume designs in drawing form, and then to have them design stuff just for fun, to show be in the process, and then to see real costumes actually on set with the real set built. I can't imagine being a kid and seeing that from conception, something in your mind, to execution, to being on the yellow brick road, what that might feel like. But they totally understood it. I mean, my daughter was sitting there and she's like, so why do you have A and B camera?
Oh, she's already giving you notes, man.
And she's like, why are you shooting the same thing? I said, well, it was 2 different angles and we can choose in the edit when I go to this one. And when I go home and I'm editing, I'd be like, should I hold longer on this close up or go to the wide? And she's like, oh, go to the wide.
Oh, wow. Future director.
Like
best. This is pre-USC film school, right?
Yeah.
that is some great pre-film school, I will say. That's so awesome. Okay. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
A Goodfellas?
That is one of the great, I think, openings of cinema. And I know, with Wicked, the way the play opens is very iconic. I'm curious if you could preview a little bit for us when folks sit down. What are they going to get to see when they first step into Oz?
Well, we really wanted to drop them into something unexpected.
Okay.
And so in this one, I don't know if I'll give a spoiler, but you let's say you drop into a crime scene.
Oh.
With evidence of something that has happened, has occurred, that maybe you've experienced before. And from there we go backwards in time to where this story started, and you learn the new story of how it actually unfolded.
Oh, I love it. We get a little timey-wimey. That's also part of Scorsese. He loves to play with time, sort of like that.
It shows you what a director on material can really do, because every camera angle is saying something. Every way he blocks is saying something. And I know that's all great filmmakers do that, but that was like groundbreaking in my mind. And I'll often watch it before I shoot in order to remind myself that you have a lot of ability to communicate story on the day of the shoot. Yeah. And I always try to keep my mind open to those things. So
I love that. All right, we got one more quote. My only grandson is getting married. We can't look cheap.
The Farewell.
That's correct, with Aquafina.
Thank you.
Very good, Jon. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, I love too that, with Crazy Rich Asians, you have an incredible cast that is joining you here in Wicked. You already sort of spoke to their incredible talents. What did you put them through? I know you were putting them through everything on this one. Did you I heard you made them do little dancer boot camp?
Oh, I mean, I was an extensive dancer boot camp. Yeah, we have an amazing dance team led by our choreographer Chris Scott, and we needed to figure out what their movement was, because we weren't gonna. Yes, of course, there's choreography and we put movements on them, but for these characters in particular, Elphaba, how does she move?
Yeah,
and that was something we had to explore with Cynthia. How does Galinda walk, and what's her posture? And that's something we had to work with Ari to come up with.
Wow.
So we had to learn to trust each other, learn each other's body a little bit in those parts in pre-production. And everyone had to be really vulnerable and be willing to look sort of foolish for a little bit before we found the language. And so I wasn't always there. I'd sort of started, and then I'd give them some space, and then I'd come back and see what was coming, and I would give some guidance on maybe some things. And so it was a great collaborative effort. in that. And not only that, we have stunts in this movie, like, and they're doing their stunts. So work on wires and how to fly and how to get on contraptions and do that. I mean, they had to do a lot. So, and then of course that's all besides the singing side of it, which we had a whole recording studio in London with Stephen Schwartz and the team there, where they were learning the songs and trying new things. And every actor that had to come in had to go through the voice lessons, the dance lessons. I mean, it was a camp. And meanwhile, we were also doing rehearsals in the office. So.
I also love too, whether it's films like The Farewell or what you're doing with Wicked, the perspective that filmmakers like yourself and Lulu Wang, or like what Celine did last year with Past Lives, I think they all sort of speak to how whatever experience you have within your identity, it can be a part of the story, but it's always with the touches of it. Like you can find the little beats of how that influences what you're able to sort of bring on screen. What does it feel like to be in this moment? Because I know it's different from when you first started to where it is now.
Yeah, when I first started, it was a long time ago now. I didn't know if I deserved to be here. I was trying to find even how to make a movie, to be honest, and working with crews and getting my vision out there. And once I started to understand it, maybe 6 movies later, studio movies later, I realized, oh, I actually do know what I'm doing. And I was looking at what I wanted to say. I was like, what do I actually want to say? And what am I, the only person in the world, could say this thing? And part of that was finding Crazy Rich Asians. That really like opened my brain of like, oh, what you have to say is unique and is valuable. And that's what you should be chasing, the things that scare you the most. And Wicked scared the hell out of me. There's a lot of fans out there, but I'm also one of them. I am a fan. So I know the things that I filled in the gaps for the show. I know the things I fell in love with and don't want to change and protect fiercely. We also have Ari and Cynthia there who all protect it fiercely in the things. And then we know the areas where we wanted more out of the time and the space and the tools that we have in cinema. So going through that journey and realizing you have the opportunity to make something where everyone in the world will have the ability to see and experience. You want to fill that canvas, every inch of it, and to say something that that feels, I don't want to say important, but it feels necessary right now, that we want to express. That's when, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, it feels like it all comes together, that I was born to make this movie. Every movie is a step in some way that allowed me to have the tools to express what we all needed to express in Wicked.
Okay, when the movie comes out, I want to like dissect to be like, all right, this is where I learned how to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because I'm like, maybe we'll get some like Step Up 3D callbacks.
There definitely are. I mean,
yes!
I mean, you look at Alice Brooks, who shot our movie, who's our DP. We worked together on my student film.
Wow.
That got me into the business. And Christopher Scott, he was a dancer in Step Up 2 that I met in Baltimore, and he became this big choreographer, and then we started to work together. And so there are a lot of ties over the years that allowed this movie to be what it is now.
You heard it here first. We're going to have Step Up. Look for the Easter eggs, kids. Okay, so now we're going to go into our next popcorn bucket. This is more trivia. I'm going to give you a fact, and you're going to either say it's true or false.
Okay.
And again, this is hopefully about a movie that you've seen on the screen.
Okay.
To prepare for the role of Chase Collins in Step Up 2, The Streets, actor Robert Hoffman,
I do know this movie.
Yes, a little bit, actually went into Baltimore City underground dance scene and participated in competitive breakdance circles. True or false?
I believe that's true.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah. I remember that on the DVD, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I think you did a commentary on that DVD, and I
yeah.
literally remember that you talking about this.
Yeah.
That is, I think, interesting, too, because there was a certain amount of, like, guerrilla filmmaking that comes from your history, like, from the dance breaks and sort of, like, you know, the flash mob aspects of some of the stuff you did with that. Did you try to bring some of that sentimentality to this? Because yes, it is a big production, but I'm sure that sort of like, okay, this is the problem, we got to attack it today mentality, like it always stays with you probably as a filmmaker.
Totally. I mean, there were a lot of guerrilla moments in this movie, as big as it was. We're like, is this really a giant movie? Because it feels like we're running and gunning. But that comes with filmmaking. I think that when you're chasing the magic, these butterflies can happen at any moment. If you're just shooting what you storyboarded or what you planned or what's in the script, you're not chasing the thing that could only happen on that day at that moment with these people. And so I'm always looking, and I'm probably the only person who can take our cameras and say, no, look left, not right. Let's all move that way. And so I'm always looking for that opportunity to do that. And maybe I drive my crew a little bit crazy, but I also know like that's the thing that you cannot think about when you're writing in your bedroom, that you're thinking about in the office. It's like the thing that happens on that day, that the magic happens. And so, there's a lot, even from Emerald City to Munchkinland. It was a little bit insane.
I mean, and I do have to talk about this because even looking at, I could see influences obviously in the Heights from your early dance work stuff and some of your stuff from school. With this one, what were the influences that you wanted to look at? Because I would say Wicked is kind of a mashup because it's like the books and Oz that's really throwing back to like almost the 1800s. And then you have these really earnest pop songs that are a part of it. So what were the films and sort of media that you were looking at sort of influencing you and you said, hey, this is the vibes we're trying to go for in some of these places?
That's interesting because, Oz has been done multiple times in sort of cinematic history, but the book is really our reference. The original book, the L. Frank Baum book, Elphaba comes from L. Frank Baum. So, and so we were looking for the iconography that is sort of stayed with us in our brains, whether that's the brick road or the melting and things like that. So my influences in the world, in a weird way, what I always looked at this was the American fairy tale. There's some very few iconic American fairy tales. Usually they come from overseas. And that's a unique thing to say, what is the American story? What is the American dream? And when you look at his book, the Wizard of Oz book, it references some of that stuff from the World's Fair, the design of the World's Fair, to transportation as like a road. So we tried to show that. And in Wicked, we have, a road for walking, to bicycles, to a train, to flight.
Wow.
And her trajectory is to flight. And so there was a lot of like sort of American history, Dust Bowl history in there of visuals that we have. The Dr. Dillerman teaches and has these slides, and we tried to there's some references to sort of American history of what this dream looked like in the past, what has turned into now that the wizard is here, of to follow this yellow brick road. You do nothing but follow this yellow brick road, and that this wizard will grant you your heart's desire, and that it's bad to feel sad, bad to feel angry, that just happiness is everything. And to have Elphaba then question those things at the end and be like, who am I trying to prove myself to? Why can I not step off this road? And there is no wizard that has this power that's going to grant your heart's desire, that you have to do it yourself. Yeah. And this whole time she's asked to have control your emotions, control. And at the end, she's like, I surrender to my emotions. And I think that's all those things were we trying to paint in the spaces that we were doing, whether they're cramped up in a dorm room or in the vast world of Emerald City and the Wizard's Palace.
I love this. Also, I really do love the idea of her saying at some point, like, "No, I'm just gonna do me." Like, this is like the essential of like, I'm done. Yep. I'm tired. I'm just gonna do me, and I love that. So, and she's got a song to do it for.
Oh yeah.
The Mahjong scene towards the end of the film Crazy Rich Asians is not actually in the book, and it's a nod to the 1993 film The Joy Luck Club. True or false?
That's like a partly true, partly false.
Okay.
Yes, it's not in the book.
Yes.
And Mahjong was in Joy Luck Club, but I didn't do it because of Joy Luck Club.
Didn't do it because of Joy Luck Club.
Did not do it. I mean, I love Joy Luck Club, but I didn't. Mahjong is I
mean,
thing, yes.
like, let's be real though. The fact that you were able to add it into there, it's like a nice little bonus too. And they made it such a dramatic scene.
Of course.
I've always wanted to ask you something. Yes. There's a moment at the end when Rachel's character's mother, like the character like looks back at Michelle Yeoh, and I loved that little touch because it's like I felt like there's no way this immigrant mother is gonna let this woman like down. Like I was just curious if that was like a day note or was that always in the script or like what?
No,
that was.
Wasn't always in the script, but that wasn't on the day either. There was a generations idea here.
Yeah.
The sort of system of who is rich and who's poor and who is worthy was something that was very deep. It's Crazy Rich Asians, but it's not about their net worth. It's about their self-worth. And to have two people who came from two different places, they're almost, I see them as like Batman and the Joker, that it's been a history of this confrontation. Yeah. And now their kids have fallen in love. and what happens when the Joker's kids and the Batman's kids fall in love, and that the kids have the answer. That she is a game theorist in the beginning of this movie, showing how to play poker, but she can play mahjong too, which is not in her necessarily her what she knows, but she knows how to. She can figure out how to play it. Yeah. And at the end, when mom turns around and looks at Michelle Yeoh, that was my daughter. That was me. So in a weird way, both of them are my mother.
Oh, wow.
So,
both of those characters are kind of your mother.
Yeah, I definitely felt that.
Oh, wow.
And the way she grabs Constance at the end, she grabs not just like her hand, she grabs her arm, which is like what my mother would do. And I didn't tell her to do that. She just did it. And to me, those are just the little details that that just happen when you cast the people who understand this nuance that we're trying to communicate.
I want to remind everyone that Michelle is also in Wicked. I'm gonna be looking
Michelle,
for.
Michelle sings in Wicked.
I know.
And when I got her in the movie, I just was like, who would be the best Madame Morrible? And Michelle, of course, in my mind. And so I just texted her. I was like, hey, I know you're getting probably a lot of scripts right now. You just come off Everything Everywhere, and you're probably going to get an Oscar for it. But
which she did.
But yeah, she eventually did while she was shooting Wicked. She was flying back and forth. That was the whole thing. But I was like, hey, would you want to be in this movie I'm doing? It's called Wicked. She's like, whatever. Well, I didn't even say Wicked. I said, what, my next movie? She's like, whatever you want. Tell me when. I'll tell my agent. I'm like, well, do you want to know what it is? She's like, I'll do whatever you want.
Oh my God.
So it's really fun.
Oh, I do love that y'all have a texting relationship too. And yeah, congrats, fun. Michelle Yeoh. All right. Last question. True or false? When Lin-Manuel Miranda's Tony Award-winning musical In the Heights first made its debut on Broadway in 2008, he was working as a substitute teacher. True or false?
I know he worked as a substitute teacher. I think it was during that time. Yes, I would say true.
Yeah, I also loved his Tony speech. He said, "You loved me back when I was making breakfast." Because before the substitute, he was a short order cook.
That is true.
that is
true.
like
Lin is the best.
He really is. I mean, look, you've got some great collaborators on this, but I think the collaboration is what makes Wicked sort of great. Mm-hmm. Do you have any great stories talking about, just that moment of like in pre-production or even in post where you're like, I didn't see this, but it made everything perfect?
I've worked with some great collaborators, like you said, and I've learned a lot from all of them, from Kevin Kwan, who wrote Crazy Rich Asians, and Lin-Manuel Miranda. I mean, and Kiara, who wrote In the Heights, like watching how they represent their culture and humanity, really, overall, like to me, how they lead a creative team. When you see that it can happen like that, Steven Spielberg, watching him direct, then it gives you a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, you don't have to be an asshole to direct a movie. Yeah. You can have a master of your craft and still be kind and extend the table to everybody. And I loved having those. I feel very fortunate to have those heroes that I witnessed in my life, to know that that's possible. And for Wicked, with Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holtzman, and also Mark Platt. Like, Mark Platt's a freaking warrior. This guy, he has been with this since his kids were young, and so they are the soul of this story from the very beginning. And so we did like 7 months of Zoom, because we weren't in person yet, 7 months of Zoom talks every day for like 4 hours a day, 3 or 4 hours every day, 5 days a week, going through every line in the script, every lyric in the song. And we would listen to the song, and I would hear every story about why they made certain choices, why they picked certain words, what they enjoyed about what they did on stage, what they cut out, or what they wished they had back in. And so we created this very big trust, but always, in the end, their best advice was, it's about the girls, stupid. Anytime we had a question, it's about the girls, stupid.
It's about the girls. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And probably the best note you could get on a Wicked production, right?
I mean, come on.
Thank you, Jon. Thank you for talking about Wicked, some of the incredible films that you've seen on the screen, your awesome filmography. I can't wait for folks to see what you have next. And I love that you're continuing the relationship with Britney. And the fact that I didn't just spend this entire time asking you about Britney Spears, I should get a medal. I should get a medal as Employee of the Century because I wanted to. But thank you so much for being here, Jon.
Thank you. It's an honor.